up to the door. Folks are running in, grabbing what they want, and running out, jumping in the car and taking off. Again, we're not seeing any police presence in that area right there. That is at the O'Reilly Auto Parts. On the other side of your screen, on the left side of your screen, you're looking at protesters. They're walking. Give me this location again, please. So they're walking south on Grand from Highway 44. This is toward the Shaw neighborhood, and again, there's quite a large presence in this area, as you can see.
And the Shaw neighborhood, of course, the site of where Von Derek Myers Jr. was also killed by a police officer, and there were plenty of demonstrations after that happened. It appears that that is their next location. As Sandy said, this appears to be a very organized protest. Now, these protesters have not appeared in these pictures, have not directly engaged police, and police have not engaged them, at least in these pictures. Now, in Ferguson, it was a different story. But following them here at 44 and Grand, they are moving. They are moving in a nonviolent fashion, and now they're moving on to another location in the South Shaw neighborhood to take their protests to that position.
And as you continue to look at this video that's on the screen right now, we do want to go up to Steve Myers. He's in Bomarito Automotive Skyfox over the scene. Steve, give us the latest from your vantage point.
Well, hey, Sandy, these folks, the entire group that was in the highway is now headed southbound on Grand Avenue. I have to push this camera out a little bit to figure out exactly where they are. They're not quite down to Tower Grove Park yet, but they are all headed there, several hundred of them headed down the southbound side of Grand Avenue now. Northbound is getting by okay. The police are behind them. I mean, there's a considerable police presence back there at that intersection coming right off of 44. But for now, these people are just peacefully marching in the street to a location that I'm certainly unaware of, but they all seem to be hanging together there, and again, they continue to walk. As we get more, we'll certainly bring it to you. For now, we'll throw it back to you.
All right, Steve, thank you. We do want to let you know that we've talked to the St. Louis County Police Department. They are confirming that tear gas was used this evening. We had gotten reports that it was just the smoke pellets. They said they did use smoke pellets first to try to disperse the crowds. When that did not work, they did release tear gas in the area.
Yep, they did confirm that. And again, on the right, we're seeing more fires. And folks, guys, where's that fire? Is that in Ferguson? And do we know what that building is? We don't know the exact location, but as we reported earlier, it's still over West Florissant, and we just have too many fires in that area for firefighters to be able to contain them all. And as they were fighting a fire earlier, shots fired forced them to pull out. So essentially, they're forced to allow these fires and buildings just to burn, essentially. Meanwhile, an organized protest on your left side of the screen is marching into the South Shaw neighborhood with some vehicles in front. And we do have a statement from the Brown family. Sandy,
right.
why don't you take that?
The Browns released a statement, and this is what it says. It says, "We are profoundly disappointed that the killer of our child will not face the consequences of his actions. While we understand that many others share our pain, we ask that you channel your frustration in ways that will make a positive change. We need to work together to fix the system that allowed this to happen." The statement continues by saying, "Join with us in our campaign to ensure that every police officer working the streets in this country wears a body camera. We respectfully ask that you please keep your protests peaceful. Answering violence with violence is not the appropriate reaction. Let's not just make noise. Let's make a difference."
And shortly after that, Officer Darren Wilson's legal team also released a statement, and we might get to that in a little bit. All right, let's get to that right now. It reads, in part, law enforcement personnel must frequently make split-second and difficult decisions. Officer Wilson followed his training and followed the law. We recognize that many people will want to second-guess the grand jury's decision. We would encourage anybody who wants to express an opinion to do so in a respectful and peaceful manner. Officer Wilson would like to thank those who have stood by his side throughout the process. This continued support is greatly appreciated by Officer Wilson and his family.
And as we're continuing to look at this video, again, this is at 44 and Grand as protesters march down the street, heading toward the Shaw neighborhood. Ray, for one of the things, we listened to Bob McCullough's statements earlier tonight, and as he made the announcement, he said there was no probable cause to indict Darren Wilson in the shooting death of Michael Brown. But one of the things he said is that the prosecuting attorneys presented 5 potential indictments to the grand jury, and they rejected all of those.
Betsy Bruce is in South Grand and appears to be following the protesters. Betsy, what can you tell us what you're seeing?
Well, we are standing on the southern edge of I-44 along Grand by the Anheuser-Busch Eye Institute building, a healthcare building familiar to many people here in this neighborhood, and right across from the Compton Water Tower. A line of police in riot gear stretched across Grand with some vehicles, some ambulances behind them. I can't see the highway anymore, but it would appear as if they had moved a good many people off the interstate and the side of the highway. And as I move around behind me, I'm going to show you some distant lights. There's traffic heading south on Grand.
All right, we apologize. We're having a little difficulty hearing Betsy, having some audio problems there. If we can reconnect with her, we will definitely do that.
And now we're showing you pictures again of Florissant on the right. And, you know, at the risk of it, I mean, you hate to see this. You know, this community has suffered so much already. They were the ones crying out for protests to be peaceful. They are trying to heal as a community. And for all of these fires to be breaking out in their area, it's just awful. Meanwhile, protesters are moving along in an organized fashion. You have to believe that these fires were committed by, this is a storage facility in West Florissant.
And this is actually the area where fire crews did respond and had to actually leave because of shots fired in the area. So it was an unsafe situation. They had to leave, and you can see there that it's fully engulfed.
And there was one residence that was evacuated behind the Little Caesars Pizza. Again, there are too many fires for firefighters to simply get to, and you hope that they could get some help from neighboring areas. But in the meantime, as you said, going back to Bob McCullough's press conference earlier today, he said that 5 indictments were presented and they would not indict him on any of the 5 charges. He cited that witness testimony was inconsistent and contradicted, specifically the position of Brown's hands and where they were. Said some witnesses said that Brown was full charge towards Wilson. But the problem with the grand jury and with not everybody reading those documents, a lot of people have made up their minds. But those documents and all that evidence has been released. It has been unsealed. Our team has been pouring through it, and it is available for people to consume. But right now, people want to have their voices heard. And it looks like on the left, we're seeing the protesters moving southbound.
Some irony here, because the protesters are there saying they want justice for Michael Brown, but I just read the statement from Michael Brown's family, and it says, "We respectfully ask that you keep your protests peaceful. Answering violence with violence is not the appropriate reaction." So again, irony. The Brown family is saying this is not what we want. We want our voices to be heard in an appropriate way, to make change, not to have violence occur on the streets where we live.
And you're looking at 2 different incidents, so you got to believe maybe you're looking at the work of 2 different groups. I mean, all along there have been other groups that have wanted violence, have wanted to use this as a platform for violence, as some have said. And the fires on the right, clearly an example of that. And again, the Ferguson community has certainly suffered enough. It doesn't need to see it burn to the ground.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like we were just talking about the documents that were released as far as the evidence for the grand jury. We said that we had Andy Banker and Elliot Weiler pouring over those documents with some experts back there. Let's head now to our document center live with Elliot Weiler. Elliot, I know you guys have been pouring through a lot of information. What can you tell us at this point?
Just first tell you sort of what we are looking at here. This is an unprecedented move, as best we can tell, when the prosecutor would release a transcript from the grand jury, and that's what we are looking at. Thousands and thousands of pages that we've had a little bit of time to look at. We've been concentrating kind of on 2 areas here. Officer Darren Wilson's testimony. Andy's going to kind of pick up where we left off with that. And then I've got some eyewitness testimony here. And again, I think our prosecutor here, Amy Feit, from the Christian County Prosecutor's Office, she is the prosecutor for Christian County, has said that what typically happens is that in a case like this, you look for consistencies and inconsistencies in any case, and that's kind of what we have been trying to do with these documents. And we've been hearing a lot of what Officer Wilson had to say in terms of the justification in his mind to use force.
Well, and we can start with what he said and then sort of see the consistency she's talking about with some of the other witness statements. Although certainly we haven't poured through every single witness. We're still trying to identify Dorian Johnson, the man who...
Well, and these are redacted documents, we should mention, too. The only one we know for sure is Darren Wilson.
It takes some time to make sure we get the right name with the right witness to the extent that we can even do that. But here is Wilson describing the situation after the initial interaction with Mike Brown, after he said they ran from the car. The gun went off twice while Wilson was in the car, and he says Mike Brown was reaching through it. So this is when he talks about moving down the street, Canfield, both of them out of the car at this point. This is Officer Darren Wilson. So when he stopped, I stopped, and then he starts to turn around. I tell him to get onto the ground, get on the ground. He turns, and when he looked at me, he made like a grunting, like aggravated sound, and he starts, he turns, he's coming back towards me. His first step, he's coming back towards me. He kind of does like a stutter step to start running. When he does that, his left hand goes in a fist and goes toward his side. His right one goes under his shirt and his waistband, and he starts running at me. You say under his shirt, a prosecutor asks. Wilson says yes. That was all done, like I said, the first step, his first stride coming back towards me. As he is coming towards me, I tell him to get on the ground. He doesn't. I shoot a series of shots. I don't know how many I shot, but I just shot it. I know I missed a couple. I don't know how many, but I know I shot at him at least once because I saw his body jerk and flinch. At this point, it looked like he was almost bulking up to run through the shots, like it was making him mad that I'm shooting at him. And the face he had was looking straight through me like I wasn't even there, like there wasn't even anything in his way. Well, he keeps coming after me, and during that pause, I tell him, get on the ground, get on the ground. He still keeps coming at me, gets about 8 to 10 feet away. At this point, I'm backing up pretty rapidly. I'm backpedaling pretty good because I know if he reaches me, he will kill me.
That's from Officer Darren Wilson.
That's from Officer Darren Wilson. So now, can you pick it up somewhere?
Sure. So we have some witness testimony here. This I will read to you. This is a transcript, actually, from a witness interview with a detective that was presented to the grand jury. This person only identified as Witness 10. He runs, he being Michael Brown, he runs. He is at a charging motion. Detective, okay, where are his hands at this time? Do you know? Witness, I'm not sure where his hands were at this time. All I know is I'm seeing him coming at a very aggressive speed and just in a charge mode toward the police officer. Detective, is this a trot, or is it a jog, or is it full out? The witness, no, it's full out. I'm coming charge full blown to try to get you. Detective, okay, and so the officer fires the first shot, and he's how far away? Witness, 10 yards. Okay, how many times do you think he fires? I think he fires 5 to 6 rounds. That's from one witness. And then Andy and I have both been looking over this. I want to just hold this up here. This is what was submitted as a journal entry from one of the witnesses who we then presumably was followed up and interviewed. It's kind of unclear as to what role this exactly played, but what we do know is that this is a journal entry that someone wrote down basically recounting his or her activities, an eyewitness account of the day that Michael Brown was killed. And again, this is about a 4-page entry here. This person says, I heard 3 bangs, but the big kid would not stop. I heard the cop say something, but not sure what it was, if he was just making noise. Cop took a couple steps forward, then backwards, and the gun went off 2 more times. The last one on the top of the kid's head. Oh my God, the blood. Excuse me. So this is, I think what is so dramatic about this is as you read this and you basically see the human element of this. We'll go ahead. We'll send it back to you.
Absolutely.